So hello, and please first forgive my English, because I'm not Kate Middleton, so I probably will sound like I'm munching glass or chewing on a very big acorn, so forgive me. And let me try this sentence first. Hello and welcome to the 11th Jerusalem Writers Festival in Mishkanot She'ananim. Okay, first sentence out of the way. Now let's continue. Tonight is all about celebrating one of the best books I personally had the pleasure of reading in recent years, and I mean it. It's called Vladimir, and the author who wrote it, Julia May Jônas, who has a beautiful soft name, Julia May, is here with us tonight to illuminate some of the hidden corners in this already dark, funny, and multi-layered novel. Okay, another sentence out of the way? Okay. I have to tell you, I fell in love with Vladimir the instant I've laid my greedy hands on it. Not with Vladimir, the character in the book. He's far too beautiful to my liking. And beautiful men always made me nervous, made me think I have wrinkled knees. And also, I'm a Jewish girl. Julia, you don't know that, but in Jewish girls, they have grandmothers. And the grandmother always tells the Jewish girl, a man should not be any more beautiful than a monkey. גבר לא צריך להיות טיפה יותר יפה מקוף in Hebrew. We don't believe in beautiful men in Jewish culture. But I did fall in love with this thought-provoking novel, Vladimir. I did. Okay, so let's try to remember what the novel is about, although you probably read it 5 times already. And let's do this. Vladimir is a story of a 58-year-old college professor of literature. You tell me when I'm wrong. She is brilliant and charismatic, a caring mother, and a wonderful, wonderful teacher. But she's also in trouble. Her husband, John, who is the head of her department, is being accused. Now let's take a moment and think, what can a 60-year-old man be accused of in this day and time? And the answer is, of course, of sleeping with 7 young women who were his students at the time of their affairs. So he's being accused. Now there is a petition to cancel him altogether and throw him from his job. And while he's waiting for his hearing, our beautiful heroine also goes through humiliating shaming from her colleagues and students. Because in the stanza, is this my S's that made the microphone? Because in the standards of today, the wife has to leave her offender of her husband immediately in order to be a good feminist. But she doesn't leave her husband. And she refuses to be the good conventional woman of a certain age that I'm trying to be. She's one of the most unforgettable female narrators that I've read. I mean it. She's full of humor and also a truly deep observer of human nature. So here she is, observes dryly and angrily at all the social hypocrisy and victim culture around her and her husband. And while she's doing that, she mainly lusts unshamefully. I always wanted to say lusts in unshamefully. It sounds so good, doesn't it? She mainly lusts unshamefully after Vladimir, a much younger, promising writer that came to the faculty. And Vladimir is also extremely hot and good looking. I thought of him, Julia, as a younger Liam Neeson, perhaps, in a rugged way.
Yeah, I
Liam Neeson is good.
It's a good comparison, yeah.
That's how I imagined him. He's got the Russian features, he's got the muscles, he's got it. And in a world that tells women constantly how to think, act, dress, who can we sleep with? Which desire of ours is pathetic and bad? She goes after what she wants, perhaps like the big, dangerous animal that a woman really is under all the restrictions. So, first, please help me greet with applause. I said it rightly, Sarah. Applause. 2 amazing women. With us tonight is, wow, a beloved actress, creator, writer, the fabulous Noah Kohler. Please stand up. Aren't we lucky? Look how lucky we are. We got Noah Kohler. And also, let's say hello to the brilliant Julia May Jônas, who wrote Vladimir and gave us this gift. I would like to ask you firstly about your name. Do you like the name Julia May? Because it's like a Rod Stewart song. Julia May. It's like...
Right. Do I like it?
For me, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I do. I think my mother is a musician, and I think she had a sense of music
like
when she
song.
named it.
Yeah,
she
Julia
named
May Jonas. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So now I'm asking you all the polite question. How was your flight from Brooklyn, right?
Yes, it was great.
You didn't fly Lyle, did you?
Well, I did fly LL.
And you liked the flight?
Yeah, it was okay. I don't know. Maybe there's something I should have expected differently about it. But no, it was a good flight.
I think we can tell you a few things about Lal, but we're so glad you liked it. And now I'm going to ask you the necessary question. First time in Israel?
Yes, it is my first time. Thank you so much for having me.
Bravo! ברוכים הבאים. ברוכה הבאה. Welcome. Okay. So let's talk a bit about your heroine. I am more close to her age than anybody else here, I think. Me too is good. Me too. And she made me think how little we are allowed to want, and specifically act on our desires as women, especially after a certain age. She made me wonder how much I actually know about my secret kingdom of needs and desires. The answer was not very much. Since I became a mother, I don't think about my desires that much. And I want to know, because this really is curious to me about you, are you a wanter? Are you a go-getter? Do you want things and go get them?
No, I have a great suspicion of wanting and getting. You know, I think it's a ruse, really. You know, I mean, but you touch on the fundamental question that led me to write the book.
Like lying?
Yeah, a ruse. Yeah, a trick, a scam. Yeah,
pyramid scam. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no self-assured tigress of a woman that goes around and gets, like Alexis Carrington, gets what she wants.
No, I don't think I would need to write a book if I if I was that.
You would have an oil well.
Yeah, I would have things. I would just get them. Yeah, but I mean, you touch on a fundamental question of the book that I was actually just talking about, which is what led me to write it. And I actually remember being at this party with a friend and turning to her and saying, do you have this expectation that you're supposed to want less as you get older? And she said immediately, I do, and I'm angry about it.
Wow.
I think, and so I think that is just a kind of fundamental belief or expectation that we as women have about ourselves as we grow older.
And that now we're getting to the older part, right. Which needs to be asked. I was surprised. I obviously first got really jealous about the marvelous way you write, and then I Googled you like crazy, and then I found out that you are 20 years younger than your narrator, who is 58. You're about 40, and look younger, may I say?
Thank you.
What made you curious to look at the world through these eyes? Because I heard in an interview, I'm pinning you, that you said that you were afraid from older age.
I mean, in a way, I did write it as a letter of fear. I talk about writing it as a letter of fear. And I did want to write about a woman who, because of, all of these external things that exist, feels like she doesn't have a real connection to her desire, to know what she desires outside of being desired herself. And how to create her own sense of action towards getting what she wants when everything about what she's been told has been about her being wanted and approved of.
Yeah, it was like a puppy when it went. I mean, all my life I was, this guy wants me, I'm so good. And then it was finished in a minute. And then who am I if nobody wants me? Who am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to act at my age? It's so hard. Nobody tells you how to act at your age.
Right. And I did think about that. There's a story, something that also inspired me is that around the time my mother was about to retire from teaching, she told me that she had a much younger colleague, and she said, she's not a professor, she's a music teacher, but she said, she told me she had dreams about him. And she was so ashamed, She was so ashamed of her kind of affection and
Longing.
and longing.
You're not allowed to long.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
restrictions on longing when you're a woman.
Right. I mean, it was embarrassing to her, and I thought a lot about that.
That's beautiful. Actually, I'm moved. I am. Okay. Are you a typical millennial in your views? Because, you know, when I was reading the book, I was saying to myself, oh, she's so right. This character is so right. Me too is too much. And people are too much feministic these days. And then I said, wow, she's fooling me because she is a millennial. And she's making me think like a character, but she's also giving a lot of criticism about the character, which I didn't notice being the same age, around the same age. So...
I mean, I characterize myself as a geriatric millennial because I was born in '81. So I'm on the cusp of Gen X. I'm not fully in the millennial world.
I love you. You're so good. Really. Please continue.
So you know, certainly when I went to school, there were one of the things that happened and was people were interested in was having an affair with their professor. It was not only a thing that people desired, but it was also a kind of status symbol to be able to have an affair with a professor. So the rules were certainly, you know, it wasn't you know, harassment was not desired, unwanted affection was not desired, but you know, certainly it was allowed and something that we as young women found exciting at the time.
Very. I agree.
And partially, I mean, in the book very much talks about this because of the power dynamic that existed between the professor and the younger woman at that time. So I do feel like I although I'm not fully in the generation of the narrator, I also went to college in a very different time than I certainly
you
teach in.
went to theater school, didn't you?
I did. I went to theater school. Yes.
So it's even more stretched than
that's
a
a very
college.
loose. Yes, it was a very loose situation.
And
Yeah.
did you get chosen by your professors? or-
No, never,
too.
never.
Me too again. Me too. Never. Yeah. So you have criticism about this kind of age, but also you say it's important that we had the Me-Too revolution.
I think
You
it's,
work wonderfully between the you know. The
I think
teardrops.
it's necessary. I think that it's important to be able to think about several lenses at once.
Multi-layered. that's
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And I think I certainly have, you know, it's undeniable that Me Too has made workplaces and places of learning safer places for young women to be able to act if harassment occurs. And obviously at the same time, something that my book questions is where do we sit as women in inside of our sense of power, and are all sexual relations harm, and are we, you know, is there a danger of once again demonizing sex for young women? Because a very crucial way that sex has been demonized for women and women have been oppressed has been by telling them that sex is dangerous and it hurts them, you know, and that it emotionally hurts them. And so it's hard for me to not see, growing up in the era that I did, that a sense of ownership about your own sexual liberation is an important value of women, to feel like sex doesn't hurt you, and those relationships don't have to hurt you. You know, we also, I mean, I think the problem with Me Too is that there are a lot of words that then get kind of hashtagged and become very general. And when what we need to do is become more and more and more specific about every circumstance, you know.
Can you give me an instance for hashtags?
I mean, instance of hashtags, not necessarily, but I think, you know, for example, even the word harm, you know, we've come to use the word harm, at least in America, as a huge word that starts to encompass so many different, you know, such a huge range of experiences. And I just feel like the more specific, as a writer, I feel like the more specific we can become about our language, whenever we sense that our language is going to, you know, be, it starts becoming diluted because it starts to apply to a bunch of different experiences without variety, we need to be more specific. That's simply the way look at the world.
I like the way you look at the world. I want to call Noah. Wow, I'm so excited to see this. She is so well known, this actress. She's wonderful, really.
I'm going to read it in Hebrew, but you know what's in it, right? Okay.
I'm familiar.
Okay. כשהגיעה העצומה ואיתה גל ההאשמות, התברר לי שכולם יודעים פתאום שאני אשת ראש החוג שסרח. באחד הימים, לקראת סוף סמסטר האביב, צצו בפתח חדרי 5 בחורות מקורס האדפטציות שלי, מצחקקות מרוב חשיבות עצמית והתלהבות עולצת שהתעוררה בהן בוודאי במהלך תכנון הקנוניה. הזמנתי אותן להיכנס, הן הביטו זו בזו בהתרסה, עד שקייסי, שלבשה בייבי דול פרחוני וגרביוני תחרה עם תסרוקת יפנית שכללה פקעות משני צדידי הראש, ושבמהלך השיעור נהגה להצמיד מכסה של עט לחלק העבה בשפה התחתונה שלה ולמשוך אותה מטה, את החולצה, כך שהפתמה נחשפה בטעות, ושתמיד צחקה בקול רם מדי על כל דבר שאמר הבחור היפה היחיד שלמד בקורס, צעדה קדימה. רצינו לדבר איתך. אמרה, אוקיי, אמרתי, כבר בשלב הזה נתחילו לעצבן אותי. חבורה מעצבנת. בדרך כלל אל כל סטודנט בנפרד, אני לא מתקשה להתייחס בסבלנות ובסובלנות, אפילו אל המעיקים ביותר. אבל גם אם באופן פרטני אפשר לשאת את הסטודנטים המעצבנים, שלא לדבר על הנעימים שבהם, שחברתם יכולה להיות באמת מענגת, סטודנטים בקבוצות הם תמיד דבר נורא. הם שואבים זה מזה אומץ מוגזם, ושוכחים להתנהג כיאות. לכן לא היה לי ספק שההידברות עם הקבוצה הזאת, ברשותה של קייסי, השדונית המאנית, תהיה בהכרח עניין לא נעים. טוב, רצינו רק להגיד, בשלב הזה צעדה קדימה בקה, בחורה גבוהה, שהתייחסה לרגשותיה כאילו הם סרטן סופני. היא לבשה חולצת גולף רחבה, שמעל סמלה רחבה, שמעל מכנסיים רחבים. בדיחה, איך נכנסים למכנסיים של היפית? קודם מורידים לה את החצאית. אז טוב, רק רצינו להגיד לך, כאילו שאת לא חייבת, זאת אומרת, את לא חייבת לשחק את כל התפקיד הזה של האישה התומכת ששותקת. שאפתי אוויר, וזעם מלובן הציף אותי מכפות הידיים ועד המרפקים. ואז צעדה קדימה טביתה, בסרבל הטייסים האופייני לה, שכפתוריו היו פתוחים תמיד עד המותניים, כך שהחזייה נחשפה לעין. זאת אומרת, את אישה מבריקה ולוהטת. זאת אומרת, לדעתנו, את ממש לוהטת. ראיתי שהן מוכירות מאוד את דעתן על רמת הלהיטות שלי. את יכולתן להעריך להיטות באישה מבוגרת מהן. וכאילו, זה ממש לא הוגן, מה שהוא עשה לנו. לכן? שאלתי. היא אמרה, לא, לנו כנשים, היא אמרה. אמרתי, לא לך, באופן אישי. קייסי שוב צעדה קדימה. אנחנו רק רוצות לדעת מתי תעיפי אותו כבר מהחיים שלך. כי זה מה שאת צריכה לעשות, ציצה אחת מהחברות במקהלה. זהירות. זהירות, חשבתי בליבי זהירות. אנחנו המרצים מדברים על זה כל הזמן, שבימינו צריך להיזהר מאוד, וטוב שכך. אנחנו אומרים זה לזה, צריך לספק סביבה מוגנת, אם כי כולנו תוהים לקראת מה אנחנו מכינים את הסטודנטים האלה כשאנחנו נוהגים בהם בזהירות כזאת. כאילו כל העולם ינהג בהם כך בהמשך. אבל אולי יהיה כך, אנחנו אומרים, אולי, אם האנשים האלה שיחלסו את העולם והם שייצרו את התרבות המקצועית לעולם הזה, לא תהיה ברירה, אלא לנהוג בהם בזהירות רבה יותר. וטוב שכך. אנשים אומרים שהצעירים האלה חלשים, אבל אנחנו יודעים שזה לא נכון. אנחנו יודעים שהם חזקים מאוד, חזקים פי כמה מאיתנו. ומצוידים בכלי נשק טובים יותר, בשיטות יעילות יותר. הם פועלים באופן מרומז ותקיף יותר. ואולי זה חייב להיות ככה. ולכן אמרתי לעצמי, זהירות, זהירות, בלי כעס, בלי מתקפות אישיות, רק חביבות, חביבות, חביבות. כולנו חיים ועובדים בתוך מבנים ומוסדות, אמרתי להם. אין לנו ברירה, אני עובדת וחיה בתוך סקסיזם ממוסד, לדוגמה, ובתוך גזענות, הומופוביה וטרנספוביה ממוסדת, ולכן אני מוכנה לגמרי להודות בכך שאני נשארת עם בעלי בלי לצדד בהכרח במעשיו, אבל עצם העובדה שאני נשארת במערכת היחסים איתו עלולה להיות תוצר של הסקסיזם שהפנמתי. לא ייתכן אחרת. נכון, אמרה קייסי, ופס רוק נמתח בפיה. ולמרות זאת, ואף שאני מודה מקרב לב, כמו שאמרתי, על האכפתיות שאתן מגלות כלפיי, בעלי ואני מנהלים חיים משותפים כבר זמן רב, יותר מכפי שמישהי מכן קיימת עלי אדמות. ובמהלך הזמן הזה היו בינינו הסכמות, סידורים ופשרות, וגם אתגרים. כרגע ניצב לפנינו אתגר נוסף, אתגר ציבורי ואישי גם יחד. ברור לי שתבינו אם אבקש מכן לכבד את הפרטיות שלי, כאשר אחליט בעצמי, כאישה מבריקה ולוהטת, איך ברצוני לנהל את נישואיי בני ה-30. הבנה כזאת תהיה מעשה פמיניסטי בפני עצמו. כעבור 10 דקות סגרתי את דלת חדרי לאחר שנופפתי להן והפרחתי נשיקות לעברן והן חייכו אליי מאוזן לאוזן. דביליות, חשבתי לעצמי. תודה.
You should play her. You're not old enough, but we can help you as older women squad. Wow, that was wonderful. Your writing as well, wow. So you are a college teacher. You said not professor, teacher?
Yes,
yourself.
yes.
Where do you teach?
Well, I'm not teaching currently, but when I was writing the book, and up till very recently, I taught at Skidmore College in upstate New York.
That sounds very liberal and progressive, Skidmore College.
It is, yeah. It is a very liberal and progressive school.
So what I like about you is, as I said, your heroine and your writing is very multi-layered. So on the one hand, I read in all your interviews that you love the students and you love the way they really sincerely try to make this world a better, safer place for women and for everybody else. But on the other hand side, we have what Noah just read about the way they dress, about the nipple, about the how she took her feelings like, how did you say that? She took
her emotions as yes.
So there's a lot of mockery as well. And I want to know, what did you see with your students or American students as a whole that is a bit funny in your eyes? It's okay, you're in Israel. We are not PC that much.
Okay.
Okay.
I think okay, you're okay, let me see if I can situate myself inside of this. As I say, I think at some point in the book, and I think as you read, I read that section actually, that's one of the sections that I read all the time when I'm doing events, that, you know, as a group, students individually are very wonderful to be with. And then as a group, there tends to be a kind of reduction. In the same way we were talking about language, a reduction of thought that leads to a kind of
Israel, remember.
Yes.
Go wild, babe.
That can lead to, I mean, a kind of, well, let me say, there are many things, different things happening. First of all, I think that students in America are in the college that I was working at, were more than anything terrified to be wrong. So more terrified of being wrong than they were of not knowing something. And to me, that is very dangerous when your fear of being wrong starts to get in the way of knowledge and starts to get in the way of learning. So that was certainly some conversations that we had. Now, I was able to have the privilege of having very students who liked me, so I could have these conversations with them. And I'm also not foolish like many of my older colleagues are, so I don't say
Which are like, you know,
who are not understanding the way, you know, I mean, it's like in any kind of culture that you walk into, you have to be aware of what the culture is so that you can start to have these discussions. So a play I would teach all the time is Miss Julie by Strindberg. It's a very misogynist play. And I would tell my students all the time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that this play is misogynist. What I'm interested in you taking from this play is something completely different. We're looking at this as an exercise in dramatic form. I want you to steal from this play. I want you to learn from it. And you don't need to let the ideas of the play get in the way of what you're learning. And some of them could take that message and some of them couldn't. So I think that's when my biggest frustrations with my students, when they would happen, would just be when they would become so worried that something was wrong that they couldn't see the merits of it. And to me, that feels like a cutting off of experience, of knowledge, of knowing what the world was like, of knowing what the world is. You know, I get very suspect when I feel like we're trying to hide things from people and hide ideas, hide thoughts, because then it feels like we're entering into some closed society, and then people aren't actually communicating with each other. So
also hiding a lot of biblical emotions, what I call. I mean, jealousy, all the
right.
biblical low emotions. They're hiding all the time.
Right,
Everything
right.
is so high and mighty and moral.
Yes, and I find that quite alienating. I certainly found that alienating in the kind of female literature that I read when I was growing up. It would be all these women who would be very well-behaved, and they might have a slight bad temper, but other than that, you know, they were morally so perfect. And you know, and as myself as a girl, I felt so much shame because I couldn't live up to that kind of moral perfection. And so I think when we try and present a world, there is an argument of trying to present a world you want to see, but I think if you don't acknowledge truth, and then you're cutting yourself off from real experience and cutting off the potential for release, and a release of people to feel like, I also feel like this, I've also thought this, I've also experienced this. And that to me is what makes literature the great humanizer, is when we can look at a book and say, I've also felt this, I see myself in this in some way, or I see some truth that I knew, but I hadn't been able to articulate until now.
That's what your book did to me, for sure. Okay, let's continue. Okay. There's a wonderful paragraph in the book. She says, your heroine, it's like heroin. Wow, wonderful, I love it. Heroin and heroin. I thought you're supposed to pronounce it like an English woman. Heroin, something. Okay. Your heroine says in a wonderful paragraph, one of my favorites, that she dislikes how young women today act like they are little leaves swirled around by the wind of the world that does not belong to them. And she continues, instead of seeing themselves as powerful sexual women interested in engaging in a little bit of danger, a little bit of taboo, of fun. Mm-hmm. Where do you stand in your mind? Because I really identified with that.
I mean, my project as a human and as a writer is trying to find a sense for myself of my own sense of. I'm trying to find a way to make this not sound moral, because I don't think it's moral, but just in my
moral,
existing as a character who the world is not acting upon. And to me, there's a great sense of power that comes from being a person who the world is not acting upon, but who is making choices and taking responsibility for those choices, whatever they may be, and feeling that as a seat of power. So that for me is something I aspire to, and I aspire to. You know, there's this Raymond Chandler quotation about his heroes, where he says, "Down these mean streets must walk a man who is not himself mean." That's a paraphrase, but that's essentially it. But I think it's something I think about all the time is how can a woman feel like that? How can we walk down these mean streets with a sense of our own self and not feel like we're shaped all the time by external forces, which of course we are, because everyone is shaped by everything around us. But at the same time, how can we gather that sense of full independence, of full character, and move from that?
And also have adventures. I mean,
Right.
where is Marco Polo, the woman, the female? Marco Polo or Peter Pan? I don't know. Why isn't there a Peter Pan? It's like when I was 16, I was told that sex is dangerous, and also another grandma lesson.
If the cow gives the milk, you shouldn't buy the cow. So don't give away your milk.
But grandma, it's sex. I don't want to give milk. I want to give sex. No. So you grew up thinking it's such a dangerous thing, your sexuality. It's a new beautiful toy, but you're not allowed to play with it. And now it's, as you said, I think before, it's the same for 20 years old for different reasons. Now they're also afraid to experiment freely on adventures and sexuality because they might get traumatized, hurt, and it's also not the done thing to date your professor today.
Right.
You have to be proper again.
Right.
Victorian proper.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's there. My friend says there will always be prudes, in this world. It's just they kind of take on different forms. And so I think that is something that maybe we think that there's a certain kind of language that is around self-protecting that is actually closing us off.
Beautiful. Let's call Noah again. Noah, I'm on schedule.
Yeah. Good. You're good.
You're wonderful.
אוקיי. שמחתי מאוד, כמובן, כשהיא סיפרה לי שהיא יוצאת עם אישה. איזו הקלה, חשבתי להשתחרר מהכלא ההטרוסקסואלי. סטרייטיות, המכל הצפוי, שבו כל התוצאות האפשריות כבר חרוטות באבן. עושר, אומללות, שלווה, חיכוכים, אורח חיים שבו כולנו פועלים בתוך סיפור שכבר סופר, אף שאנחנו מבקשים לחיות חיים אותנטיים. מנסים לומר לעצמנו שהקיצוניות שלנו לא תלויה בשאלה עם מי אנחנו מזדווגים, אלא בטיב המחשבות שבמוחנו, אם ברור לנו שדפוסי חיינו הם הדפוסים של הורינו, הדפוסים של כל בני הצאן כהמחשבה ובולסי החומאה שמנהלים חיים חסרי מחשבה בכל הבתים, בכל רחבי הארץ הזאת, המשתדלת להימנע מכל חשיבה וגישה אינטלקטואלית. ברור לנו שחיינו עשויים מנורמליות, ושהנורמליות על שלל ציפיותיה ומכשלותיה תמיד תהיה שם. תמיד יהיה זוג חברים מרובע קצת יותר ממך, שיאלץ אותך לשחק משחק הטרוסקסואלי כלשהו. תמיד תהיה משפחה שתבקש מאנשים להדיח כלים בזמן שהגברים משחקים שחמט. איזה מזל יש לה. חשבתי שהיא יכולה לחמוק מכל זה. היא אמרה לנו שהיא קוויר, שהיא עדיין נמשכת לגברים, והיא מבקשת שלא נתייג אותה כך או אחרת. היא סיד. בסדר. כל עוד היא לא תצטרך לאמץ לעצמה את זהות האישה המודאגת שמכינה את הארוחה בזמן שהגברים יושבים על המרפסת. כל עוד היא לא תיאלץ לגלם את תפקיד המורה הקפדנית לצד בן זוג שהוא פרחח טוב לב שעושה כל מה שמתחשק לו וכל מה שמתחשק לו ודווקא בגלל זה אוהבים אותו עוד יותר. ואם בכל זאת היא תבחר לבשל או לנקות או לדאוג, אולי היא תוכל לפחות לעשות את זה למען אישה שמבינה ולא למען גבר שנולד עם הדבר הזה בין הרגליים ובזכותו הוא קלט מגיל צעיר שאין בעיה לשבת בחיבוק ידיים וליהנות מזה שמשרתים אותו.
You'll have to tell me what that excerpt
was about when she sits with Sid and she talks about conventional straight.
Oh, yes.
Family life as opposed to wonderful sequence and Noah, you were great. Thanks. Okay, so first of all, can you tell us a bit about yourself? Are you in a conventional family? What's going on?
Yes, I'm in a very conventional family. I have a husband and I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son.
Wow, can we hear the names? Because in your family, names are good.
Oh,
I want to hear.
you. My daughter is named Ruth and my son is named Archie.
Good names. Okay. I think I kind of suspect that you actually like conventional family life. This is what I feel from you. I don't know if I'm right. Is there anything that you find restricting in living in conventional life, or is just your heroine that speaks like that?
I mean, I have a very wonderful relationship with my husband. So I have a parent which is completely unlike my parents' relationship. I have a co-parent which is completely unlike my parents' relationship. So so much of my husband is an equal caretaker and prioritizes my work. He prioritizes my writing, prioritizes my time to myself, and so I feel he does the laundry. We have a good division of household chores. So I feel I feel lucky, and at the same time I feel irritated that I feel lucky for having that situation. Because it should be, I feel, and certainly when I come from a very, very gendered household where my mother worked 2 jobs as well as my father and did every single thing around the house and was a complete servant to him, really, all the time. And my brother now has a wife and has the same relationship with her. She works, they actually have the same exact job at the same exact company, and they come home and she does everything with the kids and the food and the laundry and the house, and it seems like drudgery. I mean, I would look at my mother's life and think, I can never have that life. That looks bad. So much of my, my relationship to conventional marriages doesn't necessarily have to do with my own, which is unconventional, I think, simply because my husband is also a writer, so he understands, my needs in many ways, but is because of my family and the world I came from.
That was beautiful, thanks. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was. Thank you. You talked about the man is always considered and encouraged to be the naughty, playful one, and I know this really well because men are always encouraged. Oh, he's such a guy, and I always fought against this because how come my husband, who's a boring engineer, is considered not nice. Is considered, but I'm honest, is considered the wild tigris of the relationship just for being a man. He's a tiger of the relationship. And I'm the homely one who probably likes to do, embroidery in the house. And I'm not a tigress, and that annoyed me. So we had this relationship when I was trying to be the tigress, and I'm wild and I'm naughty. And then I became a mother, and then I became a mother. And then, and nobody wants fucking Peter Pan for a mother. And that's when it stopped. That's when I couldn't be adventurous and playful anymore. That much. Is it something that resonates with you, or am I just talking about myself? No,
it certainly, yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, I think the thing that saves me is that I'm a writer, and writers' lives are boring by nature. If you want to get the writing done, you can't actually be that adventurous. You have to go home. You have to go put yourself to bed early and make sure you don't get too drunk. Basically all the time.
I forgot about that.
So that allows me to live, the writing allows me to live this adventurous life, and then I can be with my children. But I take a great pride in being a bit irresponsible, and I think it's important for women to learn to be a little bit more irresponsible. I'm not the schedule keeper. I'm not on top of everything. Right. And I try to be that way because I don't want to be in the position of someone who's the taskmaster in the household. So in some ways that works, and in other ways, I don't know. I have my relationship to my children feels obviously challenging because that feels challenging. Any relationship to children and the kind of ongoing scheduleness of it and the having to show up for it, that can feel very challenging. But in my particular relationship, it doesn't feel gendered in that way. But I can see how it feels gendered when I go home to visit my parents with my kids, and then everyone disappears, you know, or my brother will leave his kids with me, and then I'll be watching 5 kids all of a sudden. Yes, and my mom will be cooking, and my brother and my dad will be somewhere else.
Guys,
you
you
know,
boys go
doing
and
things.
sit. You boys go and sit. The girls will clean the dishes.
So that will drive me crazy, but that is not that, you know, that's not my day-to-day life. And I do feel like it is a little bit important to let yourself go a little bit as a woman, to allow other people to step in, because sometimes if you do give space, you can create something more equitable. It's like when I became a writer, I made a decision when I became a writer. When I started prioritizing my writing, I made a decision to become less organized, because I had prided myself on all of my organization for so long. I had been an assistant, you know, I organized someone else's life. And so then when I was able to not do that, and probably I need to become a little bit more organized now. Probably I've overcorrected. But I do feel like it's important to allow some of these conceptions about yourself and what you have to be to go, because no, you can't be everything. You can't be everything. So you have to make room for fallibility, for mistakes.
I also love this sequence. Thank you so much. Let's talk a bit about the woman sexual odyssey. And again, I'm saying maybe it's just me, but let's talk about the sexual odyssey. It always seems to me, because your book is about wanting a younger, hot, young Liam Neeson kind of author type. It's about female longing and desire, basically. And I was thinking that the sexual women sexual odyssey is so limited and small, because when you're in your 20s, you're allowed, let's say, to prowl a bit, you know. But you always fall in love with the wrong man, and you're thinking about love, and you're romantic, and you get hurt, and and then by your 30s, you're probably looking for a serious guy and stable husband for your unborn children, mainly. And when you're 40, well, children, a lot of children thing. And then by the time you're 50, like me, then you become, I'm sad to say, because I'm, you know, I always tell myself, be an example for all the women, but I can't. So you become insecure about yourself again, because of your body and your looks and your wrinkles. And again, you cannot go and be this prowling, forceful, wonderful tigress that you always thought is hidden within you. Wow, that was a long question. I just wanted to tell you so many things. I felt like I was your friend when I was reading the book. I'm so sorry. Is it something that you fear, maybe, or?
I think
your relationship with wanting is very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've never not felt, though. At the same time, I've never not felt there was something about myself that was, you know, grounds for being rejected in some way sexually. So I feel like it's something that I was able to tap into when writing this character, and particularly thinking about her magnification of this. And as you know, certainly as you grow older, there comes in this extra shame about how ridiculous it is for you to have sexual desire. And so I did think about that, how she's in such a push and pull with herself, because she wants to desire, and at the same time she feels as though she's ridiculous for desiring. She's pathetic, you know. But I mean, if you look at, but then of course she's not. You know, this is all in our heads, right? I think it is.
I'm wondering if Vladimir really wanted her. I won't
I think
spoil
he
the
did.
ending.
I think he
found
did
something nice in her,
Yeah,
right? You're nice. Talk to me about that.
I think he did. Oh, I mean, I think he found many things in her, but I think he.
Magnetic. She deserves this.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way she thinks that he's looking at her is not correct. You know, she's putting all of her stuff on him, rather than being able to be inside of his eyes, which I think appreciate her for being, you know, vivacious and sexual and charming and charismatic and beautiful and all of those things.
You're so right. She worries all through the book about food and the way a body looks. And she does this weird thing called cellulite, something or the other. And she's like nitpicking on herself, like I do in front of the mirror so many times. And if she only let go, she would find out that she's not ridiculous, that Vladimir can actually want her. And everything is fine. So she's 58. Who, you know?
Yeah.
It's a nice message. I like it a lot. And you said the key word, shame. So let's call Noah to talk about shame. One of beautiful part. You want me to tell you what she reads, or you want to guess?
I'll guess.
You'll guess.
So let's talk about shame. הצעתי סיגריה, ינקתי עד עמקי בית החזה והנחתי לעשן למלא את כל המרווחים והנקבוביות הקטנטנות בריאותיי. הסטודנטים בימינו לא נוגעים בטבק, הם מכנים את העישון משאלת מוות ורואים בו נטייה אובדנית. רבים מהם לא מכירים את התחושה, הם חושבים שטבק משפיע על המצב התודעתי, כמו מריחואנה. 20 באוקטובר, למה התאריך הזה כל כך מוכר לי? לשמחתי סיד לא אמרה כלום על העישון שלי בערב שבו הגיע. היא זכרה שנפלנו לבריכה, אבל מעבר לכך המפגש שלנו כולו היה מטושטש במוחה. למיטב ידיעתי, היא לא ידעה שעישנתי אי פעם לפני שהיא נולדה. גם בילדותה הקפדתי להסתיר את זה ממנה, כי לא רציתי שבגיל 15 או 18 אצטייר לה כדמות שישנה במסתרים. אמא לפני שנהייתה אמא שלנו היא דבר מצודד מאין כמוהו, דמות מסקרנת שלעולם לא נוכל להכיר. אמא שלי ישנה כשאני הייתי בת 10, ואחרי שהפסיקה נאבקה ב-20 קילו עודפים עד יום מותה. אני התחלתי לעשן בגיל 14 בפיקניק משפחתי של החברה, בפיקניק משפחות של החברה שבה היא עבדה. כשאחד מעמיתיה הציע לי ולחברתי אליס סיגריות מהחפיסה שלו במגרש החנייה. הוא היה אוסטרלי ואני הייתי דלוקה עליו בגלל הגובה שלו, השיזוף, המבטא והשיער הזהוב לבן. הוא לימד אותנו לשאוף עמוק, להחזיק את העשן בריאות ולשחרר. התגאיתי בעצמי כשלא השתעלתי. אחרי כמה שאיפות אליס קמה והתעלפה לרגע מהקימה המהירה, ואני והבחור הזה שאני לא זוכרת איך קראו לו, העברנו אותה לצל והערנו אותה בעזרת פחית אורנג'אדה וקוביות קרח. אחרי שהיא התאוששה, שיחקנו תופסת שמטרתה הייתה לדחוף קוביות קרח לחולצות של השחקנים האחרים. בהמשך הקיץ הוא שהה בחברת שתינו יותר ויותר, ויחד אישנו ושתינו את הוודקה ורום שהוא הביא, שאותם הרבבנו במיץ אננס וקרח. באחד הערבים, כשאימא שלי יצאה עם החבר שלה והאחיות שלי היו בטיול לחוף הים עם חברים, הוא ואליס באו, ויחד ישבנו על הספה כדי לראות את אולימפיאדת הקיץ של 1976 במונטריאול. בזמן הקפיצות לרוחק הוא הניח את שתי ידיו על הרגליים שלנו, ובריצות הקצרות כבר ידיו היו במעלה המכנסונים שלנו. כשהמצלמה עברה לקייטלין ג'נר, כשמה כיום, בזמן קביעת השיא העולמי בדקטלון לגברים, כבר התפתלנו במאוזן על ספת הצמר המעקצצת. אני זוכרת שאחד משדיי נחשף, ואילו השני היה עדיין בתוך חזיית התחרה הלבנה, ולא ידעתי אם עדיף שאני אפשוט אותה לגמרי, כלומר אם אני נראית מגוחכת ככה, או שיש משהו מצודד באסימטריה הזאת. בשלב מסוים הבחור הנחה את ידיו אל הפין שלו, ומאחר שלא ידעתי מה עושים עם זה בדיוק, שפשפתי אותו בפראות, עד שהוא הסיר את ידי ודחף אותי, ואני נפלתי מהרצפה הצרה על הרצפה. הרגשתי כאילו נכשלתי במבחן. איבדתי בהם כשהוא נשק וגיפף את אליס, שתמיד הייתה בעלת ידע רחב משלי, ולכן אחזה במיומנות. מלאת סלידה עצמית פרשתי לחדרי, הותרתי אותם כרוכים זה בזה, ובכיתי עד שנרדמתי מרוב רחמים עצמיים. זה היה הקיץ האחרון שלי בטקסס. הירח השתקף בבריכה, לרשימה שבמוחי הוספתי סעיף להתקשר לאיש התחזוקה שיבוא לחסות אותה השבוע. אלוהים, כמה אדוות של שנאה עצמית עדיין מתפשטות מזיכרונות הנעורים האלה, שוב ושוב הבושה הזאת. לא מפני שהייתי חסרת מעצורים, או כי התעסקתי עם סוטה אוסטרלי שהיה לפחות בן 30, אלא מפני שהייתי מגוחכת. בת 14, שמנמונת קצת, שהשד שלה עם הפתמה השמנה משתרבב מחזייה גרועה, והיא לא יודעת איך להביא ביד. חלק מהסטודנטים שלי, כשקראו רומנים מהתקופה הוויקטוריאנית או האדוארדית, כעסו מאוד על כל הגיבורים והגיבורות שחייהם נהרסים מפני שהם חוששים ממבוכה. אבל בעיניי, זהו הרגש העז ביותר, החודר והמטריד ביותר. נכון שאדם עלול למות לשווא או להחמיץ את אהבתו רק בגלל הניסיון להימנע מבושה, אבל בושה יכולה גם לעורר בנו רצון למות. כפי שעדיין חשתי, גם אחרי 44 שנים, כשראיתי את עצמי יושבת על הרצפה ומביטה בעניצי השטיח הצהבהבים, בזמן שאליס והאוסטרלי מתפתלים מעליי. ואז נזכרתי למה 20 באוקטובר מוכר לי כל כך. כמובן, ביום הזה קבעתי להיפגש לצהריים עם ולדימיר. That's amazing.
די, בוא נעשה עצומה שתשחק את זה בחול. עכשיו נהיה לי תאבון. I wanted to play it in Netflix, you know. It's certainly going on TV, for sure.
Maybe, we'll see.
We can't say. Okay. I'm such a yante. I want to know now. Please tell me. Okay. I actually went through a scandal myself, so it's so accurate what you say, because you don't die from shame, but you certainly want to die every second minute that you feel shame. Every second minute. And it's like you're walking around on fire. You're literally on fire, and people tell you, get a good publicist and stop whining. And they don't even offer you water or compassion when you're ashamed. So my question is whether you ever been shamed like that. What do you know about shame yourself? Because it seems so cool to me. You're never ashamed in my eyes.
I mean, I haven't had to deal with something very public, but I am still, I think, like everyone is, you know, I have the ability to stop in my tracks and think about something that makes me feel ashamed.
And do you do this?
I mean, I will certainly stop, you know, I'll stop still, you know, I'll be jogging and then I'll stop in the middle of jogging, and all of a sudden just be back in that situation that was so overwhelming. I mean, the feeling is so overwhelming of feeling ashamed of what you've done or where you've been or how someone looked at you. I feel I'm a very, very sensitive person. So I feel like I will, even after, you know, probably after tonight, I'll go back to my room and I'll go through so many moments of shame.
No,
you know,
I'm stopping this. Come on, give her an applause. She's not shameful. Come on, I took the shame, not you. You were wonderful.
No, I just mean that it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter the circumstance. I think we can always find ways to feel that rushing stop of self-hatred. And there are certainly more strong moments in my past that I can still revisit, and that can bring that on. It's an incredible feeling that kind of cuts off thought in a way.
Is it a human thing, or is it more of a feminine thing?
I don't know.
Here I am talking to really successful women, and they all have doubts and a bit of self-loathing and shame, and you know.
I mean, it may be an artist thing. You know, it may be an ability to hold on to moments and to revisit them and recast them and re-see yourself in them and re-feel them and go through it all over again. You know, there's the vividness of you know, of our imaginations can make us live it again and again,
for sure. And this kind of thing happened to you while you were growing up? To me, but you?
I don't think that sequence, but certainly I had embarrassing, you know, sexual encounters when I was young. Yes, of course, of course. I mean, as every young woman has,
Is it true? Yes, thank God. Thank you for that. Okay, so this evening is called a scandal called Vladimir. So I was wondering about the scandalous aspect of the book. For me, it was just like candid, wonderful, not scandalous at all. But was it like accepted in the U.S. in a scandalous way? Were you like attacked for the opinions of your heroine?
I feel like, in general, I felt like most people who deeply engaged with the book saw that it was a grappling and a questioning rather than a polemic or saying this is that way or these people are wrong or that way. So I felt like, in general, when I looked, the places that I cared about interacted with it in that way. And I just recently did an event at a college and had some students question me. And I felt like I was able to talk to them in a way that was able to bring them around. So I haven't experienced a lot of pushback about the book.
How dare you? No.
Yes, no, I haven't experienced that. I mean, I haven't heard it, but I don't seek it out because I try not to look at press and reviews and things like that.
You should look at the New York Times one. It's wonderful.
I have looked at that one. I did see that one. That was early on. So I did, and then I eventually thought, this is not good for me. I need to just turn it off.
Here we are, I'm sitting in Israel, and I'm hearing that people actually burn books and throw away statues that are not. What you thoughts about art being looked retroactively? Is that a word?
Yes.
Retroactively, and then saying, oh my God, this 19th century painter was so misogynist. Let's take his statue down. Or how dare Oliver Twist speak not like a feminist?
Right.
I hate that. You?
Yeah. No, I think it's bad. It speaks to the
terrible.
same thing I was saying before, which is that it cuts off knowledge. It cuts us off knowing. Like, one of the great gifts that literature can give to us is that it gives us a look at what the world was like when it was being written. And if we take that away, then we can't see what the world was like. So we can't accurately see where we're coming from and where we're going. If we can't read the work of that time, including all of the opinions that were negative, or the ways people had prejudices. It's all very important and useful to know. I'm against anything that takes away knowledge.
I think it's a T-shirt sentence, isn't it? So, Leah, would you be kind enough to tell me what the time is, so I will know if I want? Okay, I want Noah to do her acting again, because I love it. So now I'm going to ask this. Even Vladimir, who is so desirable in her eyes and is like a young Leonism, which I think about a lot, even him, in the end, is like this feminist. When she gets to know him, is like this feministic guy. He's a great father. And there's a slight feeling of disappointment that he's such a female pleaser. Am I wrong, right? I don't know. Is there like a lust for the old not chauvinistic, but old type of guy who was more wild maybe and less pleasing?
I think she wants to see him in a particular way. And I think if he fit into, she wants to put him in a particular picture, and he resists being put into that particular picture. So I think...
You're so aloof. I love it.
Aloof?
In a good way.
No.
Is aloof a good word? I don't know. Maybe it's a generational gap.
No, aloof, standoffish?
No.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, cool, not in a I'm cool way, but in a, temperature-wise.
Yes. Yeah. You know how to move through the drops, as we say in Hebrew. Okay. What about power? It's like the power in a husband is very alluring and attractive to younger students. What are your thoughts about power in women? Is it the same?
There's certainly a kind of power that, who knows where women necessarily get their power. I think that for a lot of women, they feel power at a certain time because of their beauty. They're fitting into a conventional beauty standard. But I think there's also a way that I'm interested in. It's what I was talking about before is about trying to regain a sense of internal power as a human.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean having power over someone. That means that means to feel powerful inside of themselves. And I'm interested in that project. And I also see how difficult that project is. And what I wanted to do in the book was talk about that it's a difficult project to try and get to that sense of power, and that the world, it's not necessarily available. You know, I'm not trying to say that one should be like anything, but I am interested in finding a sense of internal power, and all of my characters, I think, are interested in finding their own power.
Me too. I'm so interested in that. I really want to gain power, but I always feel like I'm falling behind and I'm not growing up in the right speed. But maybe it will change. I don't know. I love power. Powerful, I mean. Inner power, as you said. And you know, it always kills me because they show us all these young models, and my daughter, she thinks this is what a man's supposed to want. But when I look at people who are in love, I see that the woman is so charismatic and powerful. She's not necessarily looks like a Barbie doll, but she's powerful and charismatic and hypnotizing. And the man adores her rightfully, and you don't hear the word charismatic even when spoken to women. And this is what I love about your book, which is in the end, apparently she's charismatic enough, you know, to do everything basically.
Yes.
Noah? Great.
בילדותי אהבתי גברים מבוגרים, ושמתי לב שגם הם אוהבים אותי. הם אהבו את הלהיטות שלי לשמח אותם, את תשוקתי למצוא חן בעיניהם. הם נהגו לקרוץ לי וסברו שיש בי בגרות מעבר לגילי. פגשתי אותם בכנסייה, בכינוסים משפחתיים ובבתיהם של חבריי כחברים של הוריהם. הם היו בני הזוג של המורות שלימדו אותי ריקוד, מדעים או היסטוריה. שביעות רצונה ממני מילאה אותי עונג. בזיכרונות ילדותי אני בסמלה לבנה מאותרת בתכלת. ילדות בשמלות לבנות. זו שורה מתוך שיר שכתב גבר מבוגר. אמנם לא לבשתי שמלות לבנות, אבל כך אני רואה את עצמי בילדותי, ובמיוחד במפגשים עם גברים מבוגרים. זכור לי שהרגשתי כמו ילדה מובהקת, וחשבתי שהטוב שלי קורן מתוכי. טוב לב ותכונה זהרו בעיניי, והגברים זיהו אותי, אפילו המבוגרים והרגזנים ביותר. גם כיום, רבים מהדברים החביבים עליי הם דברים שגברים מבוגרים נהנים מהם בדרך כלל. מוזיקת ג'אז, מוזיקת פולק, בלוז, נגינת גיטרה וירטואוזית, וגם ספרי היסטוריה ארוכים שמבוססים על תחקיר מעמיק, סופרים רבי עוצמה, שחיתויות, פשעים, אלימים ומשונים, רוק'נ'רול רגשני, רשעות. חביבים עליי גם סיפורים פשוטים על חיי עיר או חיי כפר, או זוטות מן ההיסטוריה הפוליטית, ובדיחות שנונות. עיסוק במנגנון הפעולה של בדיחות. שעשועי לשון, משחקי קלפים וסיפורי מלחמה. אבל הדבר האהוב עליי ביותר כיום בגברים מבוגרים, והסיבה שלא פעם יש בי תחושה שאולי אני אכן גבר מבוגר, ולא אישה לבנה מזדקנת בסוף שנות ה-50 לחייה, זהות שאין לי ברירה אלא להציג אותה בפומבי למבוכתי הרבה, הוא שגברים מבוגרים מורכבים מתשוקה. הכל בהם אומר רצון למלא את החסר. הם מלאי תאווה למזון, לכלי שייט, לחופשות, לשעשועים. הם מתאווים לעוררות. הם מתאווים לשינה. מתאווים. היה לי גם את המצודד שמבעיה, בסדר. הם מתאווים לשינה. התשוקה היא שמנחה אותם. עולמם מורכב מתשוקותיהם. כי הגברים המבוגרים שעולים על דעתי, ואולי כוונתי לסוג מסוים של גברים מבוגרים שפגשתי, שהתקדש במוחי מצעירותי, לא מכירים או לא מסוגלים להעלות על הדעת עולם שלא מונחה לגמרי ולחלוטין על ידי תחושת רצייה והשגה. ומובן שהם משתוקקים גם להערצה במסגרת זוגיות מינית, גם אם בדמיונם בלבד, מול האור התחלחל של מסכי הטלוויזיה שלהם. That's it. Thank you.
Now I want Hollywood, a movie deal. So you guessed the part?
Yes, the
it's
old man.
wonderful. How do you
Yes.
know? She
what
doesn't know Hebrew, but she listens and she knows exactly every time. She knows exactly what part.
Folk, yeah,
that's
blues.
But you knew also the ones before.
Some of them. One of them I didn't get. I got some keywords from some
Okay.
other ones.
So it's the older man. We should learn, if I understood correctly. What do you teach your daughter that is different from what you've been taught? Your daughter Ruth, who's got a wonderful name, and then I think we'll say goodnight. But I really
Okay.
want to know that.
Well, the first thing I teach her is that I don't talk about my body in front of her in any way. I don't talk about it, about wanting to improve
it looks
it.
so bad, yeah.
Or anything like that. So I kind of keep that. And I don't talk about her body either. And I try not to talk about her looks. So I am trying, you know, it's inevitable. I see her looking in the mirror. She's 9, so she's starting to flip her hair in front of the mirror. But I really try and make that the least important thing that we could discuss in the household. So that's the first thing that I try and teach her. And then otherwise I try and teach her to value not what other people say about her, but about her own commitment to something. You know, so it's not about getting the compliment. I was certainly a kid and a girl who was fed. I still live and breathe off compliments. You know, people telling me I'm good, people telling me I did a good job, things like that. You know, it can make my day if I send a story to my agent and she says, this is great. Then all of a sudden, I wrote the story. I mean, I should have my own internal compass about it. But if she says this is great, then all of a sudden I'm filled with, you know, extreme joy and happiness, you know. So the thing that I try to teach my daughter is to have a relationship to her own work and her own effort and her own experience rather than what other people are saying to her.
I think that was wonderful. Thank you so much. You want to ask questions? I think we can. We still have a bit of time. Leah, you approve? Yeah? Let me put you as a manager. I decided you are my older man. Come on. You approve? Vakasha. I think there's a lot of questions to be had. She's amazing. You are amazing. טכני ואני זה לא מסתדר.
First of all, I'll make your day. I loved the book. It's a great book. Okay.
Thank you.
But I would like to ask you 2 writerly questions.
Sure.
One, how many drafts did you write before? And 2, tell us about your writing day.
Okay, so for Vladimir, it originally started as a play, actually, and then I put the play away, and then when I wanted to write a novel, I thought about a character from the play, and so I started writing from there. And so I had a lot of thought that had already gone into the book, years of thought in a way, because it was a subject I had visited and then put to the side and then revisited. All to say that my draft, I did extensive editing as I was writing, but in terms of a structural reorganization or anything like that, it was pretty much, I wrote it pretty sequentially. That I knew even as it was happening that was a very singular process, and I'm currently writing a second book, and that's not the process that I'm having with this book. But it was one draft that underwent extensive editing, but I didn't do anything like remove a huge portion or move things around or things like that. And then my writer's day is that, well, when I wrote Vladimir, it was the pandemic and my daughter was home doing online school. And so I had 1.5 hours every day to write. I was teaching, but that was so precious. It was so wonderful to have those 1.5 hours to think about that world. So I took that time at that time. Now I tend to write in the morning for 3 to 4 hours and then move on to the rest of my day.
We read your book at our book club, and we loved it. That's why I'm here, all the way from Tel Aviv. And I also got to see your play in New York when I was recently.
Oh, my goodness.
Personal, yeah, I think you were actually in the crowd.
Oh, wow.
And my question is, I had to prepare for the book club, because we always prepare. And one of the things I read was that one of the inspirations for the book was The Sea by Iris Murdoch, which I ran and read. It's like a very heavy book.
Yeah.
And she writes as a man in the book, because
right.
I guess that's what women used to do a lot.
Yeah, I think
and
that was
I really couldn't grasp what in that book was an inspiration for Vladimir.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think the sea, and maybe you didn't have this experience of it, but the thing that I found so fascinating about that book is a couple of things. One is he tells you everything he eats all the time. And I found that so pleasurable reading that. And I wanted to have that experience of the food, the dailiness of the life inside. That was a big inspiration. And the other is that you think you're reading a certain kind of book when you're reading The Sea, and then all of a sudden, if you haven't read it, it's okay. Hartley shows up. Why does she show up? It's so coincidental. It's so bizarre. And then he kidnaps her, and it's so all of a sudden you're in a completely different book than you thought you were in. And the coincidence and what he's pushed to and what he ends up doing all because of his obsession, those were the inspirations that I took, particularly.
Yeah, in that sense, it's really similar to the end of the book of Vladimir. It
right.
also loses track in a way.
Yeah, it goes off the rails, but that book goes off the rails in a way that when I was reading it, I found it really, really thrilling.
Just a short question. Do you feel that, I'm also a writer, and I feel like the young generation and the whole world changed, and they're very into the iPads and the Instagram. Do you feel like you're struggling harder as a writer today?
To reach, because of my own distraction or to reach other people?
Yeah.
I mean, I think about it in two ways. On the one hand, certainly it feels like not as many people are reading books. But then on the other hand, there is a whole community that exists on Instagram, which I'm not on, but have been on it for brief periods of time, where people share about books and talk about books and have whole internet personas built around reading books. So I think it's been a bit of a marketing blessing for publishers that Instagram exists and that people want to share it.
I come from the Orthodox world, so we keep on the seventh day. You can't use electricity, so we buy books.
You can read.
Yeah, forever, for the coming 1,000 years. I have 11 kids.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Wow. And I write also an hour a day, I think.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved your book. I think I was the first one that bought it. I always buy, I'm the first one in the store when a new book comes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
The first reader in Israel.
Yes. I mean, yes. That's amazing. I think the internet is bad, in general. It's hard for us to focus on basic tasks now. It's clear that it's disrupted our attention. I try and look at the good of it and,
So now I'm going to tell you that Julia Jonas is going to sign her books. In the book stand outside, I hope I said it correctly, they sent me 5 times the message how to say it, but she's going to sign her wonderful book. I want to give a warm round of applause for you. You were wonderful. And I actually learned from you, but thank you.
Thank you.
And also for Noah Kohler and for Julia, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a thrill to be here. Thank you.